Wait a second. Did modern Disney actually make something watchable?
Those were up, and they did.
More smarts, and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for a new sequel that came out last weekend. And, yeah, it's for our favorite company, Modern Disney. But I'll clarify why I went and watched this in a little bit. But as you all know, they're going back to doing sequels, and that's obvious why, because these guys keep losing more and more money the more stupid shit they release, and keep getting more and more backlash with their stupidity. I know some certain little Disney fanboy is going to get all mad, but when I say that, but this was a movie, though, that surprisingly turned out to be not as terrible as I was predicting it to be. And this is going to be for the sequel to their film from 2015, well, one of two films anyways, one that was released in summer 2015. And that's going to be for last weekend's Inside Out 2. And what's the plot of this movie? Well, Riley is now a teenager, and this time in her mind headquarters, there's a sudden demolition undergoing to make room for something unexpected. Some new emotions. Our five main emotions from the first movie, joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust, they were running a successful operation for all accounts, and they don't know how it feels when a new emotion named anxiety shows up, and she's not alone because there's three other emotions with her. Okay, so how was this made? So it all started right after Inside Out was a success 9 years ago, became the 7th highest grossing film of 2015, and of course, so E.T. and the Guardians, since Pixar is making sequels to their older stuff, they thought a sequel would be inevitable. And Pete Docter was germinating ideas for a sequel after the original film's nominations were unveiled at the Academy Awards in January 2016. Development of the story began in early 2020, and Pixar even confirmed the sequel's development during the D23 Expo on September 2022. And of course, Joy's voice actor, Sammy Poehler, came on stage to discuss the film with Docter. And Kelsey Mann was also announced as director of the sequel this time, and this would be his directional debut. Mark Nielsen would be producing, and Meg LaFave was announced to write the film's screenplay. And of course, half the truthful will building, Mann used Docter's 5 to 27 emotions idea from the first film, because originally there was going to be more than just 5 emotions in the first film, but that ended up not happening. Man's first pass was going to be 9 new emotions and make Joy feel overwhelmed with all the new emotions showing up. But apparently he felt the story would not keep track with so many emotions taking a spot later, not adding to the story. After the first screening, he simplified the number, and there'd be 4 new emotions instead. One of those emotions was schadenfreude, jealousy, guilt. The latter, but those got removed. And envy could relate to jealousy, and remnants of guilt could be found within anxiety's introduction. Or even giving anxiety some guilt's baggage, and yeah, like in the Disneyland hotels. But anyway, after Inside Out 2 was shot and marketed, it would premiere at the El Capitan Theater in Los Angeles on June 10th, 2024, and will be released in theaters in the United States to the public around Father's Day weekend on June 14th, last weekend. And this film, it's Pixar, and from paid critics, it received very positive reviews from critics, and it has grossed surprisingly $481 million worldwide, and that's the third biggest opening day behind Pixar's Incredibles 2 and Disney's shitty Lion King remake. And I don't know why the Lion King remake has a good opening day. for Disney. Really don't. It's the fourth highest grossing film of 2024 so far. Well, I wouldn't be shocked if this ends up becoming the highest grossing film of the year at the end. Because it probably will be. It's already on its way there. Now, as for my reaction, this may sound crazy, but I was honestly one of the few people that was not excited nor really wanted a sequel to the first one, because when it comes to the first Inside Out movie, I feel like you only really needed one Inside Out movie. I think Inside Out just worked best as just a one-trick pony or just a one-time thing. I don't think you really needed a franchise out of it. Really no reason to make it a franchise. And I clearly thought they were just making this movie to regain their lost flop money, which is kind of a bit true. Because you see, like, not only are they doing a sequel to this, November, we're getting a sequel to Moana, we're getting a Toy Story 5, which we don't fucking need, we're getting a Zootopia 2, which I did want at the time, but now knowing modern Disney state, not so sure I really kind of care anymore for it now, especially with how shitty Disney is nowadays, and I have a feeling they'll probably make it bad. Just judging by their last few films, and all the trash they've been doing recently. Yeah, there's rumors of them wanting to do reboots to The Incredibles and Finding Nemo, which I hope don't work, hope don't happen. Yeah. Like Pixar and Marvel Disney have sucked today. And especially even Pixar sucked today. Because, like, ever since 2022, they did bullshit like Twerking Red, they did the Shit Year movie, which is like, yeah, the Shit Light Year movie. Yeah, like 2 years ago. And then last year, I know they did Elemental, but I didn't really care to see it because I didn't like what they did in 2022, so I did not care to watch Elemental. And here's the thing. Even if Twerking Red wasn't dumped to Disney Plus, I can bet you at the box office it would have bombed. It probably would have bombed. And you're all like, yeah, not a fan of Twerking Red, or Turning Red as it's called. And everyone could be all like, but what about the scene where Rita sees her mom in the past and her mom's self? That wasn't even that good of a scene. It doesn't make up for the rest of the movie being trash. Yeah, like Pixar's better than that. Yeah, of course, like when I watch a Pixar movie, I totally want to see a teenage red panda twerking her ass in her mom's face. Or constantly a bunch of ass shots of her in her panda form. I thought Pixar was better than films like this. And I don't care what era it's supposed to be set in. In fact, it's set in the 2000s pop era is not even a good thing. As a plus of Ortegas was a whiny ass brat. So yeah, I don't like Twerking Red. End of story. I don't. But anyways, the reason why this was another like everyone's benefits film, and I had nothing to do, and it was really hot out, so, and plus I had a lot of Scene Plus points, yeah, because I'm with Cineplex, my area I have Cineplex, so I had a lot of Scene points to redeem, so I only really had to pay $1.40 for a ticket for this. So that was a relief. So Disney only got $1, $1 for me. One. Now, how is this movie? Okay. Those who are probably waiting for a rant, you're not going to get that here, sadly, because personally this was decent or kind of enjoyable. I wouldn't say it was phenomenal like people are calling it, but it was decent for what it was. Like, this had way less modern Disney crap in here that was nice to see. Here, like, this felt like probably the most watchable, most tolerable modern Pixar film since Luca. I'd have to say that. Like, I just didn't relate to this one as much because the anxiety message was just done with a lot of stuff with this rate, especially in the pretentious A24 movies. Whereas, like, when you had the message about being sad times in this movie, that was like, they did that in the first one creatively and a little more fresh. They didn't do it obnoxiously, so it worked there. Like, the anxiety stuff, like, yeah, I think This message has been done in a lot of films. But it was fine for what it was. I'll take it over a lot of worse modern Disney stuff today. I'll take it over that. But anyway, this is this entertainment event that lasts like 96 minutes, but it's got a problem with the story. Like, yeah, we meet our 5 emotions from the first one again, and they're going through teenage Riley's mind, but it's less creative, it's less inventful, it's less fresh and amazingly to look at as the first movie. Like, and pacing is very slow with chunks, and not much story occurs. You don't really get to form a bond with the character this time. The first one did plenty of emotional, deeply meaningful stuff. The first one had plenty of Pixar-like things. Inside Out 2 just really lacked that kind of stuff here. And the humor and warmth, but the humor and warmth do make up for the not that great plot. And this is not directed by Pete Docter this time. It's directed by a new director named Kelsey Mann. This is her directional debut. And some voice actors come back. Amy Poehler comes back. Phil Smith in The Office comes back. Louis Black comes back. And you have some new faces here. Like, they've recasted Bill Hader for Tony Hale as Fear. At least they thankfully recasted Mindy Kaling, especially after she did that god-awful Velma show. I think, honestly, after Mindy did that stupid fucking Velma show, I think she definitely needed to be kicked out and replaced. They thankfully got a much better actress for the role. And this was an actress I think should have been playing the character in the first one in the first place. And you have some new faces. You got Maya Hawke from Stranger Things. You got Kensington Tillman here, and a few other new faces. They still, once again, they illustrate how emotions involve, and how one's old new self adjusts and responsibilities increase, and the life lessons that get learned here. So, even if it's not as great this time, now, how does our movie start? We start off with Kensington Tillman, who's now voicing Riley Anderson this time. They also recasted Riley. Riley's now 13 years old. She's going to a hockey match. And her parents are once again played by Dan Lane and Kyle MacLachlan. They cheer her on. And we meet Riley's emotions from the first movie. They guide her actions throughout the game. And during the match, though, Riley trips an opponent and gets put in the penalty box. And of course, then Joy catches the viewers up on what's been going on with Riley since 9 years ago when we last saw them. She tried to branch out to other hobbies, made 2 new best friends named Grace, voiced by Grace Liu, and Bree, voiced by Samaya Nardrin Green. They're also on her hockey team. Another island's got thrown at Riley's head with newfound interest. Emotions also gather Riley's memories. They create a sense of self with her, and she views herself as good person and friend. Then Riley gets back into the game after her penalty ends. She scores the winning goal, and her parents, friends, and emotions all cheer her on. And then we meet Yvette Nicole Brown's character, Coach Roberts. She approaches Riley, Grace, and Bree and invites them to attend a hockey camp to show off their skills, and Riley can be part of the high school's team, the Firehawks. Then Riley's about to go to bed, and her parents expressing excitement at her being invited to the hockey camp. But they warn her if she gets too hard on herself, and thanks to penalty, she got almost cost in the game. But of course, though, Riley starts to act hard on herself and thinks she almost cost him the game with her penalty. So Joy takes this memory and uses a recall to send the unpleasant memories to the back of her mind. The emotions settle in for the night. And so, since now, Joy has gotten a lot better with sadness since the first movie. She brings sadness down to the belief system, and Riley's sense of self is organized. So yeah, Inside Out 2 is not as emotional or thoughtful as the first one, but it's still an entertaining, family-friendly, fun sequel. Not completely new, but it does enough to keep it from being too much of a repeat of the first film. I would say it slightly repeats the first film, but I wouldn't say it's like Hangover 2 levels of repeat, because there's still some different things to be done here, but somewhat of a repeat in areas. Here, Riley's growing up, and so you get an array of new emotions and lessons for our old ones to learn. That's the thing, though. One of the reasons why I didn't really want an Inside Out sequel is not just because it ended perfectly with the first one. What else would be done here? Would they would just rehash the whole first one again? Really, what else could be done? Yeah, but thankfully that's not too much here. The film shares a similar structure to the first one, though. because of the new emotions, new lessons for Riley and emotions to learn, and some new jokes here that actually are kind of funny. Were surprisingly pretty funny. That did make up a Riley's Teenage Hood. It does make it a little new enough, and the new emotions I did like. I did like some of the new emotions here, and they go on to grow Riley and humble Joy as well, and the emotions even learn that they're important to maturing this young girl. And one of my favorite aspects of this sequel was when they introduced us Riley's beliefs, and that was very intriguing, very intriguing idea. Well, it's kind of like guess like Riley's soul could be inferred like her subconscious. Like it was pretty well done here. We got to see something new inside the mind of Riley, and the highlights of the movie. They're very relatable themes, and the Charlie creativity that went to that's like prototyping. And new characters have funny and discriminating character traits, and ideas that fit in growing up are eligible emasculated in the new theme of a belief system. And there's some also sarcasm and brainstorms we get to see here when we get to the Rise Mind area. And you have the high quality of animation and color theory, and that's very subtle and communicative. And then, yeah, and whenever Riley feels out of place, the movie communicates with you that she feels out of place. So after Riley's been hard on herself, and the emotions get woken up by the puberty alarm we saw at the end of the first movie on their console that's been going off. And so the mind workers then come in, they burst in, they make changes to headquarters, and they set up a new console. Then Riley wakes up, gets greeted by her mom to get ready to go to hockey camp. And she sees she's not packed. And it seems like the console's broken. So in anger, sadness, and disgust try to touch the console. Riley appears to overreact, and that leaves them all confused. Which I will admit that was definitely pretty funny. That was definitely funny. I'll admit right there. So, then Riley's parents take her and her two friends to hockey camp, and then Riley finds out that her two friends are going to be at a different high school next year, so they're not going to be all on the same team in their new school years. So Joy tries to keep Riley together until the girls arrive at the camp, but Sadness lets Riley have a little cry over not being with her friends the next year. But Riley snaps out of it when she sees Val, who's voiced by Lomar Hernandez, the captain of the Firehawks that she actually idolizes. Riley's trying to talk to Val, the new emotions that appear in her head. So we meet our new emotion characters. Our five from the first film, they meet the first of the newbies, Anxiety, who's voiced by Maya Hawke. Anxiety nervously tries to make a good first impression, and then has Riley awkwardly introduce herself to Val. Then Envy, who's voiced by Ayo El Dabiri, shows up and nearly touches the red streak in Val's hair, but disgust pulls her away. And then you got Embarrassment, voiced by Paul Walter Hauser, who then emerges to react with shame over that. And he's too shy to talk to their emotions. Embarrassment doesn't really talk that much. And then you have another emotion named Anui, who's voiced by Adele Exarchopoulos. She appears on the couch and operates the console through an app on her phone. Then the last emotion to appear is literally, ironically, nostalgia. That's who's voiced by June Squibb. But Anxiety says she's not going to be needed for way later in Riley's life. Yeah, and so even though Riley wants to stick with her friends, she ends up joining Val so she can make a good impression on her and her teammates. Then they go to the locker room. Joy takes over the console from Anxiety when her two friends show up. Riley goofs off with them, and then Coach Roberts chastises her and makes all the girls give up their phones. Then Riley tries to make a comment about Coach Roberts and ends up making her force the team to do skate lines, and it leads the other girls to get mad at Riley, and she feels more embarrassed. Now, here's the thing. I like Anxiety as a character, but when I saw the trailers, I did not like her design. Now, here's the thing. The way Anxiety is designed, she literally looks like a Muppet on crack. Just imagine if Beaker and Kevin Smith were all a Muppet. This is combined together. This is what they'd look like. A scrawny Beaker who took too much crack, and with a more wider-eyed Kevin Smith's face. Mushed into one. That's what she literally freaking looks like. However, though, despite the shitty design she has, I still liked her as a character. I thought Maya Hawke was terrific for the character, and it made the character entertaining to watch. And I should also mention this, Disgust is now voiced by Liza Lapira, And I thought Liza did a much better job as the character than Bitchy Cow Lane here. Like, I don't know why this actress could have voiced her in the first one. Why couldn't we just got her instead? Could have just had Liza. I thought Liza was better suited for the role. I really didn't even, because even before Mindy made that Velma show, I didn't really like her performance as discussed. That was one of my bad qualities with the first. The plot's not really the greatest, but the depiction of Riley developing a more complex understanding of the world was a little bit well done here. The introduction of new emotions does work well here because they do fit the plot. They represent the effects of puberty, mood swings, and mental chaos, and the crew change, the command center, that was not a little bad turning point. And the animation, is definitely stunning, which is expected from Pixar. Some new emotion landscapes. They have the sarcasm that fuels Riley's side, the jungle that represents her unconscious, those are imaginative, they're visually dazzling to look at. The color use is really effective. Anxiety's world rendered in this sterile palette that reflects on her controlling nature. The voice acting remains strong. Amy and Louis Black are definitely still terrific in their roles. They capture Joy and Anchor's signature traits right here. And there's plenty of laugh out loud moments. Here. When our 5 emotions get a prison in the vault, they meet this preschool character, and they meet a video game character that's evident to Link from Super Smash Brothers. Here, any of this preschool character has this vault. No, not has this vault. Has this little fanny pack that has a bunch of dynamite in there. And the designs of them are very well done. And the sarcasm and other gigs were very funny. The fanny pack's name is Pouchy. Pouchy, I just remember. It's named Pouchy, yeah. So there's more prep. So during the teams are practicing, Riley overhears Val's teammates saying Riley's making a bad first impression. So Embarrassment and sadness both make Riley cry, but anxiety steps in so Riley can talk to Val and apologize for goofing off and getting the girls in trouble. So Val is nice to her and continues to invite Riley to hang out with the team. Then Coach Roberts has the girls split into 2 teams, and Riley has to choose between joining Grace and Bree or going with the Firehawks. And Joy tries to tell Anxiety that Riley's sense of self would lead her to join her friends, but Anxiety pretty much tries to get full-on control over Riley and pulls a sense of self out and sends it through the recall tube. It feels Riley just needs to go major changes and secure a future. Joy protests, does not like this idea. Anxiety, as embarrassments, put the original emotion in a jar and send them away to the vault. And Anxiety uses one of her recent memories to take the belief system and form this corrupt sense of self for Riley. And so she joins Val instead of her 2 friends. And so the original emotion are on the vault. They're placed with the fictional characters. The preschool character named Bluefy, who's voiced by Ron Funches. You have Pouchy, voiced by James Austin Junks. You have Pouchy, the thing he has on his waist. And you have a video game character named Lance Chase Blade, who looks like Lake, voiced by Yang Yi. That Riley, and even later discussed, ironically have a crush on. So the emotions get broken out by this Steve Purcell cameo we call Deep Dark Secrets, and a door gets blown out with dynamite from Pouchy. That Pouchy has a bunch of dynamite in him, which was definitely the funniest part of the film. So security guards are going after him, and Lance uses his move, which is literally rolling like a bowling ball. And even says so many funny lines there, this was my favorite part of the film. This had me laughing the hardest in the theater. It works well enough, and the guards get to just clumsily lock themselves into another vault. So the 5 decide to go back to headquarters. But Joey wants to recover Riley's sense of self before going back. So they get stuck in a dead end of the hall of memories, since it's changed up a lot. And then it seems Riley's starting to wake up, and the new emotions are getting up early to go practice hard so they can make the Firehawks. And so this allows Riley to bond more with Val, but Riley's 2 friends, Grace and Bree, notice Riley drifting away from them. So, now, the direction's pretty good. You have a macro scale that's great, when they continue this vibrant in the world's mind, and they go further this time into some more visuals. And the direction, the micro scale, it's pretty good. It continues to personify the original emotions. Even though it's a step back from its predecessor, and they don't do a good job directing these new emotions too well, or connecting different elements, and there's too much convoluted storytelling, trying to do too many things. The movie just feels a bit more shallow. They build tension well, especially in the climax when there's a rush of emotions. The symbolism is profound. They do good showing the impact puberty has on everybody. They do a great job dealing with anxiety as a concept. here, even though if it could have been executed a little better. The foreshadowings, it's alright. The foreshadowing wasn't as good as in the previous movie, because it doesn't feel like all loose ends get tied up. Like, the first one tied up all loose ends. Here, they just don't really do all that well. There's vibrant and colorful moments that improve with improved technology, and they take the world to a new level. And the visuals are stunning and beautiful. This kind of felt like probably the most visually stunning stuff since, 2019's Uncut Gems. So, when they're trying to go back to HQ, emotions, Joy feels like sadness is the strongest emotion to go back to HQ first, so she sends sadness through a recall tube so she can sneak in and stop Anxiety's plans. And Riley ends up having to pretend or dislike certain things around Val so she can fit in with Val and stay in their good side. And while hanging out, the girls show Riley the coach's office that determines whether or not Riley would make the team. And that depends on Coach Roberts' opinions. The emotions try to ride the stream of consciousness back to HQ, but New's influence with the cool girls that creates the sarcasm. And so it pretty much destroys that, and it splits the area in half. And they try to call the mine workers for help, but because of sarcasm in the way, the mine workers just think the emotions are jerks, so don't help them out. And this goes back to the real world, where Riley's two friends are overhearing and pretend to make fun of her favorite boy band, and that does not sit well with them. Then the girls head to bed, and Val tells Riley that about scrimmage the next day that's going to determine her future on the team. Anxiety gathers then more emotions to create a new sense of self. And so Joy and Ingrid discuss in fear, since sadness is already getting back to HQ for the recall tube. They hit another dead end, and then they get in an argument, and then Joy blows up on the other emotions because she's having a hard time leading them, and whereas Anxiety's right about Riley not needing them anymore. But anger talks her out of her funk and helps get her back on her feet, so they go to a tube from the mine workers to shoot themselves high enough to see their way back towards the old sense of self. Then Sass finally gets back to HQ. Anxiety, Evie recall this bunch of useless memories, and Embarrassment notices sadness, but surprisingly, Embarrassment decides to help her hide, and then the other four find Imagination Land. They discover a lot of it got renovated, clearly, because Cloud Town is clearly gone now. A lot of other stuff there from the first one is clearly gone. And now there's a new room where mine workers are being made by Anxiety to come up with negative scenarios so Riley can do well enough to make the Firehawks. So Joy then leads her friends with the positive scenarios, and Anxiety quickly catches on to them when she clearly finds sadness got back. But Joy manages to rally the mine workers. They rebel against Anxiety in the forest escape on a parade float for Riley. So Anxiety quickly has Riley wake up, sneak into Coach Roberts' office to break in and look at the journal. Stannis sneaks by, swipes in his phone to use the console app and stop her from looking at it. But Anxiety clearly takes back the phone, makes Riley open it anyway. And it says that in the journal, it says Riley's not ready yet. So Riley looks upset, and new emotions try to summon ideas to step up the game. Then the other four get caught in a storm of ideas that continue to float by. Joy then pretty much has them try to break them as they fly their way though, and then big ideas keep flying their way though. They see on their way out of the storm it slips through the tube and it leaves them pretty much behind. Riley ends up not sleeping, tries practicing harder before the scrimmage can happen, and then dyes a red stake drake in her hair like the rest of the Firehawks. Then Anxiety's new sense of self is now complete. It makes Riley believe she's not good enough. The standout aspect of the movie was easily the bold decision to introduce Anxiety, here. It's nice to see, we get introduced to Anxiety. We could definitely be introduced to something like Anxiety in today's world. And, you have Envy, Ennui, and Embarrassment, or... the movie did not try to shy away from the complexity of these guys, especially with their exploration of Anxiety. That was portrayed remarkable depth and sensitivity everyone can really relate to. And you're starting to wonder if Anxiety is a bad thing. The movie answers it with a thoughtful exploration of how Anxiety actually can serve as a purpose for us. It's not just about suppressing feelings, understanding that there's uncomfortable emotions like envy, embarrassment, ennui, and anxiety. They're meant to kind of be felt so we can progress and grow in life. And Pixar's animation is still top-notch here. This movie shows no exception. The attention to detail is pretty remarkable. You create designs of the characters, there are nuanced expressions, they convey the emotional states. These details enhance the storytelling. The emotional experiences of the characters are more vivid and relatable. And it's worth noting that, like, well, the first one was kind of targeted, evenly balancedly targeted to both adults and kids. I feel like Inside Out 2 is targeted way more towards kids this time. And it just misses the mark in connecting with both age groups. Like, the first one, like, this movie felt perfectly targeted to both kids and adults. This one just feels more for kids. Here. Like, the humor and themes are relatable. The sequel's jokes and themes, like, they're still pretty funny jokes in here. Some still slightly funnier jokes for adult audiences. Like, it's just that the first entry just felt groundbreaking, exploring, like, when you had the first film, that explored the complex relationship between joy and sadness, and delivered an emotional punch that resonated very well with both all age groups. The sequel doesn't really reach that level of emotional height because there's not much emotional stuff in here. You have a film that contemplates with maturity and depth, and it somehow captures like the charm and ingenuity of the first movie, and delves more into sophisticated, complicated themes. And like the movie just lost some of the spark and joy that were characterized by the first film we had 9 years ago. Even if and that movie stands strong more on its own merits. Like, like, yeah, like the first film tells you that it's okay to be sad a lot of times, and that was a perfect message. Like here, yeah, anxiety kind of feels a little real at times, but where else was really the emotional connection with that? There just wasn't really any of that here. The first one just felt more impactful. So anyway, on to the finale. So the four emotions, they make it back to the mind and find the old sense of self. Embarrassment tries to help sadness sneak in, use the recall tube and bring her friends back up. Anxiety quickly is onto this and breaks the tube though, and it destroys it, and the others now have like no way to get back. So Joy is now left with despair, comes to the realization that growing up means you feel less joy, and it doesn't mean that they will let Rise stay that way though. So they still try to get back. Like the first film had a scene like this where Joy and Bing Bong were in the memory dump, and Joy now realizes she screwed up and just wanted Riley to be happy when she's looking at the memories and broke down and right there. And you really felt that despair in the first film. But then like when a tear of joy fell onto that emotion, she winded it back and it looked like a sad memory, but then it turned to a happy memory. And she realized Riley's parents came to help her because of sadness. And she realized sadness had a purpose for Riley and had a reason to exist. Right there. That felt more impactful. This, though, like, Joy just kind of regains her confidence a little too quickly. Here. So, anyway, like, the skirmish begins, and the Firehawks are playing against Riley's two friends' team. Riley tries to go hard and prove that she's the best, but ignores the rest of the team, and then tries to beat Val's record of scoring 2 goals to freshman. And as Anger's suggestion, Pouchy gets summoned and gets a ton of dynamite from him, an avalanche of bad memories, and they make it back to HQ right there. Our plan does work, and as soon as they get there, though, like, Riley got herself into the penalty box again. After the attempt to score the 3rd goal, she accidentally slammed into Grace and sent her tumbling, so she's in the penalty box, and so Riley now feels horrible and guilty, and then suffers an anxiety attack because the emotion put too much pressure on her. Anxiety desperately tries to fix everything, and it reasonably doesn't work. And so the new mold emotions, they come together, they pry away the anxious sense of self, and Joy pushes herself towards the console, but anxiety's like in a tornado of her own. She's unable to get out of it, unable to stop what she's done, and she pretty much is forced to accept that she failed. But Joy convinces anxiety to let go of the console, and so Joy replaces the corrupt sense of self with the old one, but then it gets replaced again with a new sense of self that's combined with all the good and bad memories. So the emotions get joined by anxiety as well, who's come to accept the fact that she can't always make Riley happy with her decisions. They come together, they embrace a new sense of self, and Riley's able to calm down. And then Riley's two friends approach Riley in the penalty box. She apologizes to them for her behavior. The two forgive her. They still view her as the best friend. And they finish the scrimmage after Riley's penalty ends. Right there. So, then we get back later months, and then Riley's beginning school with the Firehawks, and waits for them to see if she made the coach's list. And she's still talking to her two friends. They're waiting to hear the results. Then we get to the emotions in Riley's head. They're all working together now to balance Riley's feelings and changing emotions to form a complex personality. And they're all accepting of the mistakes. They play up the strings. Then Riley hears her phone buzz, and she sees the results, and she looks with a big smile, and like right there, I think that pretty much tells you that she made the team. She clearly made the team. You don't really see the list on the phone, but you can see by Riley's face that, yeah, she got the team. She aced it. She made the team, and then pretty much the credits then roll. Where you see the anxiety in Riley's parents' heads are now seeing like that after like she gets nonchalant over her hockey camp experience. And yeah, that's pretty much how Inside Out 2 ends. I know there's an after credits scene, but I didn't stay for that. So yeah, all in all, Inside Out 2 had problems, but surprisingly, compared to some worse shit modern Disney has done, like, this was tolerable. It was a tolerable, fun watch. It's a perfect little family movie. At least it's just an entertaining family movie this time. There's no politics garbage in here. That should make people happy. Like, and I can see why it's making money. There. One of the few Disney projects today that I can definitely see why it would make money. One of the only things I could see making money from Disney this year. Except for, that and Deadpool Wolverine, but no, never mind that. Like, but guys, like, as tolerable as this is, there's reasons why I don't like it as much as the first one. Like, the first one, the pacing was a bit of a mess, and it kind of felt a little rushed. The exposition of rising action does feel rushed, there's too many new things that get added, and the climax just adjusts to the right place too quickly. Like, this was kind of really confirmed in September 2022, like nearly 2 years ago. So it just doesn't, so it kind of does feel rushed here a lot of times. Right here, like, this was just clearly done, like, you could kind of tell this was just done because Disney was losing money, they needed a sequel to make back all their money. Right there, like, their Star Wars shows are doing bad, most of their Marvel projects flopped last year, Wish bombed last year, Elemental did decent, but, like, Lightyear frickin' bombed. So this was just clearly done because they needed a moneymaker. Right there. And they'll probably get that with this. This might be one of the only Disney projects this year that really does any profits. It'll be like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was last year. That made profit from Disney, and that was the only one that did. Like, another thing, like, yeah, this does some stuff a little differently, but the tone and plot are just kind of similar to the first one again. It almost just feels like you're just watching the same movie. Yeah, like, it feels very similar to the first movie. It's almost as if the emotions didn't really learn anything. And there's some childish humor in here, like, especially with the character of Riley being now a teen, most of the kids who watched the first one would now be teenagers themselves. They could have tried to be a tiny bit more mature, and, like, their mission, it's just like the first film, like, the reason why it's similar to the first one, because the mission is just to return to Riley's mind. You have to spend an entire hour more with them encountering obstacles again, and this wasn't engaging at all like the obstacles they encountered in the first film. I did not care for I didn't really care for any of the Riley scenes. The stuff with Riley was the least interesting here. Like, the first film, it works perfectly fine. Like, it was perfectly fine. The Riley scenes were perfect in the first film. This one, they just feel less interesting. Yeah, like, Riley was trying to adjust to her new home here. Like there, it made for a perfect subplot. Here, like, Riley's just worried about being on a hockey team. That's really not something that's too engaging. Right there. It's just not, this did not engage me in my eyes. I didn't really care for her trying to fit in with the team. I didn't really care for the stuff between her and her two friends. And, like, Riley's parents, they're probably the two most nothing to do characters of this movie. They just appear to drop Riley off at hockey camp, and they never pretty much appear again until the ending in the post-credits. Most of the movie is just Riley at this camp that's not even interesting. But other than those, like, I give Inside Out 2 a minor pass for at least trying to be entertaining, and, like, not trying to force in a bunch of politics, and not forcing woke crap, and not forcing a bunch of cringy LGBT references. I don't mind LGBT references in movies. It's just the way Disney does it. Right here. If it's done for a reason, like Brokeback Mountain, I'll allow it, but the way Disney does it, it's lazy. I would probably rather watch this over some of the worse shit Disney's been doing now. But I didn't think it was overly great, okay? It still had a number of problems. It was average, but there are still some qualities I had with the film that were not great. So in the end, guys, Inside Out 2, I just stream it online for those that like the first film because it's a fine movie, it's not terrible, but it just sometimes just still isn't necessary. It just rehashes elements from the first, does not feel that too fresh. So yeah, it's a stream online for me. Anyways, guys, that's it for my view of Inside Out 2. If we're going to rank Inside Out 2, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you are a fan of the first Inside Out, I'd honestly just wait for the streaming release because this film just kind of feels stale and mediocre, while still being better than whatever the fuck modern Disney has done nowadays. And if we're going to rank Inside Out 2, I'm going to give Inside Out 2 a 6.5 out of 10. And there we go, guys. That wraps up the review for Inside Out 2. So yeah, I expected this to be terrible, but I was surprised it wasn't. So far, this summer is kind of off to a bit of a surprising start. I surprisingly hated a Bad Boys movie. Surprisingly didn't mind a modern Pixar sequel. No, this doesn't mean I like Disney again. I still hate modern Disney, I still don't like them. But the thing is, though, this feels more like a director-directed movie, so I think I'll just call it that instead of really a Disney movie, because there's less of Disney's dumb crap in here today. I'm talking about the modern Disney, not the old Disney. Yeah, there's thankfully less of that stuff, so there's that. Some people will not go watch this, but I watched this because I had a lot of Scene Plus points to redeem, so I didn't have to spend much money on the tickets. So that was nice. But yeah. Until then, guys, that'll be it for this review of Inside Out 2. We're going and thank you all for watching. And if you like this, want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.